Hello and welcome to Films for the very first time. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Casey McGeorge.
Oh, how's it going, everybody?
It's going good, and as per usual, we are here to talk about films or TV shows for the very first time. Usually, one of us has not seen the film or TV show, and the other one picks something that they enjoy, and we discuss it. So today, we are talking about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. A show once deemed Seinfeld on crack, It's Always Sunny follows five irredeemable assholes as they own their own bar, Patty's Pub in Philadelphia, while getting into many outrageous situations, mostly due to their own faults. The show premiered in 2005 on FX and is still currently airing as of this recording. The show stars Glenn Howerton, Rob McElhenney, Charlie Day, Caitlin Olsen, and of course, Danny DeVito. It was created by Rob McElhenney. As per
New
usual, when we
season,
talk TV
new
shows.
season
Sorry, go
comes
ahead.
out in July. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
July
new
9th.
season comes out in July.
July 9th, I think it showed me on Hulu as I was watching this.
Yeah,
Um,
at the start is when you click on it. New season starts July 9th. So I'm guessing it'll probably be like the day after, airing on Hulu or something.
yeah, so that is season 18, I think.
Something like that. It's up there.
Oh, 17, season 17. It's been a couple years since the last season. Um, but as per usual, when we talk television shows, we have 3 episodes to discuss. We watched the pilot, The Gang Gets Racist, season 2, episode 1, Charlie Gets Crippled, which introduced Frank, and then season 2, episode 3, Dennis and Dee go on welfare. But yeah, so this show came out in 2005, August 2005. The first season was 7 episodes long. It did not have Danny DeVito in it. And I kind of felt boxed in on why I picked these 3 episodes. Am I going to say they're the best episodes of the show? No, I do think one of them is very good, like up there. But as such, after Buffy, when we realized, we did the episode where it like played on
Yeah, I
connotations and stuff that I was not.
I jumped in the middle of the
Yeah,
series, and then you had no clue who any of the characters were. I was like,
I knew
yeah,
Buffy.
that was a bad choice. It was kind of the same thing when you did The Office too. Like I know who Michael Scott is, right? But I kind of don't know the
And I would
whole.
say
I don't know the
like
whole dynamic with everybody, so
The
I
Office
was I
isn't
knew who some people were, but that's it.
typically needing to see the pilot on that one because it is like it. I guess it introduces you to the characters, but it's very like season 2, which we watched, was very like pretty much loose threads going to each episode. Most of the time, it'd be kind of like a new, Michael Scott issue of the week. This show is very much that way too. But I was like, you know what? I do want to introduce you to the show before Danny DeVito enters, and then that kind of locked me into. I had to pick season 2, episode 1 to kind of introduce who Frank is, and like if we just watched a random episode with Frank joining the crew, you'd have no clue his relation to anybody or what's going on with him. And then I picked what I think is a really good season 2 episode of Dennis and Dee on welfare. So that's kind of
Or
where I
if you would have
went with
just,
it.
I'm sorry, or if you would have just started with 3 random episodes with all 5 of them in there, right? Like I knew somewhere that Danny DeVito had joined up. Like I knew it was shuffling around in my mind. But if I would have decided to, hey, let's just start watching this, at some point after you show me those 3 episodes, and let's say I decide, you know what, I want to see the show, then I go back to season 1, episode 1, and I'm like, what the hell? Excuse me. What the hell, man? Where's Danny DeVito? Then I'm texting you
Yeah.
like, where's this dude at? Like, oh, he's not in season 1. You sold me a
Yeah.
false bill of goods, man.
So what happened is, just to kind of give some background in case if people are not aware, the show was pitched. The 3 people that do the most on the show are Rob McElhenney, Charlie Day, and Glenn Howerton. They actually, I didn't know this, but they first met each other while auditioning for Tuck Everlasting, the Disney movie with Alexis. I think it was a Disney movie. Or am I thinking of the No, yeah, Disney movie. Yeah, so this is like the one where like the Fountain of Youth or whatever, but it stars Alexis Bledel and stuff. So I'm guessing they were going for the male role in that one, and they ended up just hanging out. They became friends, and they ended up making like little home movie type things. And they kind of shot like this, what was called episode 4, Charlie Gets Cancer, is like that. They shot a version of that was like a pilot that they sold to FX, and then they started making the actual first season, but it wasn't really a big success, like at all. That FX was like, you got to get somebody famous in here to like keep this show going. So they were able to get Danny DeVito in here, and it started taking off. It really started taking off after DeVito joined the crew, and now it's going to be almost one of the longest running American sitcoms. I think it needs to hit like season 18 or 19 for that to happen, but it's up there. And since then, since DeVito joined, it's kind of taken off. Like I said, they did a promotion where they called it like Seinfeld on crack and all that kind of stuff, because what most people know of Seinfeld, right, is that they're more normal. They're more normal than these crew, but like they are very self-centered. So this show is like that, but able to explore, because it was on cable television, stuff like the gang gets racist, or Dennis and Dee go on welfare and get addicted to crack and stuff. Like they were able to do stuff Seinfeld would not have been able to do back in the day, and they just are more self-centered. Like I said, I called them assholes. A character calls them assholes in these episodes as well that we'll talk about. But
okay,
yeah, so yeah, I was just gonna say, if you want to, before while you share your thoughts too, but just also kick it into like what you knew about the show, or like,
yeah,
because I know you watched Abbott and the crossover or something, right?
Yeah. Okay, so a couple thoughts. Number one, those three do not need to be involved in anything Disney is doing. That is not a
This is a Disney
bunch.
show now. This is a Disney show now.
I know technically they belong to Disney, right? I get that. But like this is not a Disney bunch in any way, shape, or form. Number two, I'm not saying Danny DeVito had been by the wayside, but I don't really remember what Danny DeVito had been doing for a while until he joined It's Always Sunny. Like I know we just recently watched
LA Confidential.
LA Confidential that had Dan DeVito in it, and he would pop up sporadically here and there in some of these things, right? And like I knew of him from Taxi and Being Married to Rhea Perlman and Twins and a couple other things, right? But I think there's a younger generation that probably didn't know much about Danny DeVito, right? He just, it was one of those things where,
I mean, I guess that's the thing. I feel like,
but he wasn't doing much. And the thing is, what we don't know is he was actually doing a lot of producing stuff behind the scenes. He just wasn't in front of the camera as much anymore.
That's how I feel about it. Like I kind of grew up, I knew of Danny DeVito, just like he was that type of guy. He's a celebrity that you just kind of know. Right now, he's doing a lot of those Jersey Mike ads, right?
Yeah, he's doing Jersey Mike's commercials.
I knew him from like episodes of Friends he was appearing in, but like Matilda would probably be like the biggest thing I knew him from. That was 96. Like as a kid, that was a kid-aimed movie.
Yeah.
Hercules, he voiced Phil in Hercules.
Okay, didn't know that.
But
then now,
yeah.
All of a sudden, a couple years ago, I think probably because of It's Always Sunny, there was a chick on Twitter who like took a cardboard cutout of Danny DeVito to her prom or something. And he caught wind of this, and next thing he made a cardboard cutout of her. And I think he took it to the set of like, It's Always, there was some weird things with like cardboard cutouts of people. And like you said, now he's doing these weird Jersey Mike's commercials, and people love Danny DeVito again, which is great. Like he's he's phenomenal at what he does. But like I said, it's one of those things where he was doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. He's one of those guys where if you're watching a movie and you happen to look up at the credits at the right time and you're like, executive producer Danny DeVito, producer Danny DeVito, you're like, Danny DeVito helped make this movie? What the hell's going on? Like I did not see that coming, you know? But for someone like me who does remember Danny DeVito, it like at first it was just good to see him. Oh, he's on a TV show again. That's cool. He's got a regular thing going. That's pretty cool. So I remember when the show came out and all of a sudden it started making it big, right? I never got around to watching it. For me, FX was that TV station where I'd be flipping through, especially when I had cable, you would flip through and you would either find a TV show in syndication, like a Buffy or an Angel or something like that. Or at some point you would find a TV movie that they had they had the rights to that they could air. You'd find some action movie from the 90s or some, movie where you'd be like, oh, I remember this movie. You might sit down and watch for a couple minutes. I don't know what their first foray into original programming at all was. But I remember at some point, they're making their own stuff. Like, I don't know. And I remember seeing commercials and I was like, I don't know what these guys are doing. But at some point I was like, I have no desire to watch this show. And then gradually as the show builds and builds, and then you see there used to be advertisements for it in like FHM and Maxim and billboards for it and all these other stuff. And you see critics are loving it and people are like, oh, the show's hilarious. And you're like, but by then it's on season 4 or 5 and I don't want to start watching a show in the middle of the series like that. I didn't feel like buying the DVDs at the time because if I buy season 1 on DVD, right, and then it's no good, even though it's 7 episodes, I wasted $25 for a DVD. Right.
Oh, well, so, the actual fun thing about that, by the way, is that season 1 and 2 were sold as one set. But yeah, I get your point.
Okay, so now season 1 and 2 are together. I probably would have wasted $35 because now it's a box set.
No, it was only 20. It was only like $15-$20. Back in the day, DVDs were cheap. These Blu-rays are killing us.
They weren't as cheap as you think. They started coming down eventually, but they weren't as cheap as you think when they first started coming out.
Yeah, but when I bought this show, it was I did so. My first foray into this show was, I kind of came in probably around season 5 or 6, and I forget what kind of got me on board with it. I think I was just hearing good stuff about it, and I saw some reruns or like the on demand on my cable had like a handful of episodes from like the latest seasons, and I watched those, and then I went back and bought the DVDs. That's how I kind of got involved with it. But yeah, so for me, I was like, oh, it was kind of that experience of going back and watching season 1 and being like, Danny DeVito's not in this.
And around that time, streaming still wasn't a big thing, so it's not like you could just pick up, your remote and go to Netflix or Hulu or whatever streaming platform of your choice is and find it and binge watch it, right? So it was just one of those, maybe I'll get to it. And then I just gradually kept hearing more and more. And at some point, I know it's on Hulu now. I know it's been on Hulu for a while. Maybe it had been on Netflix or something.
It was on Netflix for a time. Yeah.
Pop on and off. And I had added it to my queue, but I just never got around to watching it because, once again, there's so much stuff on. And then you see it's got like 13 seasons. And you're like, if I start watching this is going to be a task. Like, this is not something I can put on and listen to and kind of watch in the background while I play a game on my phone. Or catch up on other work. Like, this is going to be a task. Like, I have to watch this show. So I'll just watch Family Guy or American Dad because I don't have to pay attention to those. And then the memes come out. You see the memes of Danny DeVito with his guns, and then I started blasting, and
Yeah.
And there's obviously probably one of the greatest memes of all time that came from this show is Charlie with the strings on the board and everything. And
Oh,
I've seen the clip online. Like I've looked up the clip just to kind of get a gist of what it was. Of there is no Carol. What do you mean there is no Carol?
and there's also the one that a lot of people use of the "I'm playing both sides, so always come out on top" from Mac. That one gets a lot of play.
I don't think I've seen that one. I may
FX
haven't just on note, but I don't think I've seen that one.
FX started doing original programming. It looks like in like 2000, with a comedy show called Son of the Beach. But the drama stuff is where they were really well known in that early era because they had The Shield from 2002, Nip Tuck 2003, Rescue Me 2004, and then Sunny was 2005. So that was kind of the how FX started really getting into a lot of these.
I forgot about those three because people loved those three shows: The Shield, Nip Tuck, and Rescue Me. People were loving those shows when they were coming out weekly, especially The Shield. The Shield was big.
Yeah, it was. My parents watched that. They watched all. I think they watched Nip Tuck as well and Rescue Me. Yeah, so they loved those shows, and I was instead watching. It's Always Sunny, and The League. I watched The League on there too, which was a fantasy football show that they had over there. That was 2009.
And you know what? This is one of those as well. Like so, when I think of FX, I think of like syndicated TV shows, and movies. So before we start, I'll say I did not, and it doesn't bother me at all, but I was not prepared for the level of swearing and things that's on this show. Like I was once again, I was under the anticipation it was more of like a USA where they still would cut or bleep stuff.
No,
I did not know this was kind of, I'd say, like mini H if they showed any nudity in anything that they aired at all, right? But I do know for sure, like with the swearing and things, I was like, oh, I once again, doesn't bother me. But I was like, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect 2 minutes and 26 seconds into episode 1 an M-bomb to be dropped. It's racist.
Yeah.
Once again, I was it's not that it bothered me at all, but I was like, wait a minute, did I just hear what I think I said?
I was thinking when I picked this episode, I'm like, do I warn Casey about this?
Not only that, okay, cool. But then another 2 minutes and 26 seconds later, the second N-bomb that gets dropped. And I was like, wait a minute.
Here's what I'll say too. This is a kind of a spicy take, I guess, right? A lot of people say like skip season 1, don't do it. And I really disagree with that for anybody that's listening. If this is your first experience of Sunny, while it doesn't have Danny DeVito in it, it has some really funny episodes. Some of them still very topical. Charlie Wants an Abortion. Talk about a hot topic today. That episode is still very relevant to this. Underage drinking, a national concern. That's another good. Gun Fever, talking about America's obsession with guns. That has some stuff there as well. So I think there's some really good episodes in season 1, but people usually say just skip it. But I think there's some really funny moments in those. But the show does find its feet more when Frank enters the show.
One last thing before we get into the episodes, I'll say. Like I said, I told you guys earlier, I binge watched and caught up with Abbott Elementary, right?
Yeah.
And I saw the crossover with Abbott Elementary. Knew of the characters, but okay, whatever. I don't know which show, and maybe I just have to watch more of this. I don't know which one is more Philadelphia between the two. Because Quinta Brunson from Abbott Elementary is from Philadelphia. Like she is, and
So is
and
Rob
you see that,
McElhenney, and that's why
yeah,
they teamed up on this. Is they were I think he likes watching Abbott, and they ended up
they met at an award show or something, and they
yeah
talked about it'd be funny to do a crossover, and they worked behind the scenes to get it done, even though they come from two separate entities, and they figured something out. Um, I will say, reading up on some of this about some of the characters uh, at some point, because Abbott is done in the mockumentary style, where there's like a film crew following the teachers around in the school and everything.
yeah
And there's like in the beginning when they first start, because they have to do community service and that's part of their thing, is they're doing community service. So they're doing community service at school. So one, I'll say these people should not be around children in any way, shape, or form. Their community service probably needs to be picking up trash on the side of the freeway. But Dennis, at some point, is like, I know a little bit about consent and the camera, so I'm just going to step back behind the scenes. And after reading some things, that kind of makes a lot more sense, because it didn't make any sense when I watched it. And then hearing about some things that he may have done at some point, I'm like, okay, that makes a hell of a lot more sense now.
Oh yeah, if I was going to pick just episodes that that I really love, season 6, The Gang Buys a Boat. It has a legendary Dennis moment with all of that, but that for sure is something I would have I would have picked. People, if you're listening, know all about the implication there. But yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and get into it then. Also, I know it sounds like a lot of seasons, but the show itself only has 170 episodes. I say only because I just watched Modern Family in 2 months, and that was 250 in 11 seasons. So
yeah,
while there's
X-Files
16
is up there.
seasons, it's
it
like
looks like there's only like maybe 10 or 11 episodes a season. It's not. I don't know if they did a full 20 some odd episode run during one of the seasons.
The closest is season 3 with 15 episodes. Then it's all down from there pretty much. By season 8, it's 10. Yeah, season 8 to 14 are 10 episodes each, and then season 15 and 16 and 17 are 8 episodes each. So it keeps going, down. Especially all of these people are so busy now. Glenn Howerton had his own, like, he was juggling Sunny and AP Bio when that was on NBC. Caitlin Olsen is doing, I think it's High Maintenance on ABC right now, which is like a or High Potential or something, right? It's a like almost like a monk type, yeah, like she solves crimes as a maid or something. And then Rob McElhenney was doing a show on Apple at the same time, while also he's been very involved with Wrexham, the football club they bought over in Wales. So he's been involved with that. And Charlie Day, of course, is the one that's kind of broken out the most, I think, on like movies, movie wise. We talked about him in Horrible Bosses. He's had more of a movie career than the rest of them. But
isn't he the voice of Luigi in the Mario movie?
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. I haven't watched Mario yet, but yeah, I remember him.
You haven't seen the Mario movie?
No, I own it. I just need to watch it.
Man, if I would have known that would have been something I would have picked for the season. Because I honestly didn't pick it because I was like 100% positive you had seen the Mario movie. I could have swore I saw a post where you went to go see it in the theater. That's why I never picked it. Oh man. I want to tell you to watch it, but I want to tell you to not watch it because I want to.
I'll hold off. I waited this long. I can wait a little longer. But yeah, so yeah, Charlie Day was in that too. All right, so let's dive in. The gang gets racist.
Did they get racist, or were they already racist?
That's a good question. Also, this is a pretty common theme with It's Always Sunny that you might notice as you were watching these, but the setup of the episode, and then they have a lot of fun with the title card popping up in this show. I would say the best example of this is when Dennis and Dee go on welfare and they're like talking about how they're going to go follow their dreams and they're leaving the bar and then it just pop title card, Dennis and Dee go on welfare, and you're like, oh, things are not going to go good for them here. They have a lot of fun with that type of setup of here's this and then boom, title card tells you the name of the episode. So I know for some people, like I'm watching some British people react to this show on YouTube right now, and their fans told them not to look at the episode titles, so that way they get that little like jolt when it pops up on the thing. But it's kind of hard on the streaming era to know, to avoid episode titles, I feel like.
I do like the fact that we actually see the episode titles in the show.
Yeah, I like when shows do that. And also I really like when the show opens with the black screen, white font telling you what time, what day.
Somewhere in Philadelphia on a Tuesday, or Philadelphia on a Tuesday. Okay.
Right.
What the hell is up with the music?
Well, what do you mean?
Okay. I once again hadn't seen the show. Didn't know what to expect for like the theme music.
Like the theme song?
The music in the show. What's up with this Leave It to Beaver shit? Like,
oh, I love it. I love this music. I've
accepted it, but this is, I don't know what I would have expected or anticipated, but it was not June Cleaver music. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I think it's a good like juxtaposition of the characters and the situations they're in, that you almost have this like peppy,
wholesome
music as they're going through.
This wholesome theme song and music. There's nothing wholesome about any of these people.
I think the theme song might be it was Heinz Kessling. I'm assuming this is a pretty cheap song, or maybe not copyrighted song where you can use it. Kind of like Curb's song, I think is like a where anybody can use it type of thing. So I'm assuming because they were such low budget, that's part of the reason. But the music supervisor, it says, like, there's a quote here where it says, "Give us everything you have in a sort of Leave It to Beaver with a big band swing kind of feel."
Okay, I did see. I had not looked that up. I did not know that. But
that's good that you figured it out. Yeah.
Was like, this is not Leave It to Beaver. What the hell is going on
here? Yeah. But I didn't even think that would be a question in the music. That's funny. So in this here we have it start off with Dee is, introducing her. So Dennis is her brother. They kind of explained that at some point earlier in here. Mac is like Mac and Charlie are just friends from high school with Dennis. And they
go back to grade school, actually. Oh, yeah. Well, high school,
yeah,
but those go back to grade school each other.
And they all have, they all kind of own part of the bar, except for, Dee doesn't, right? That's going to get used when they vote for the gay club stuff. But Dee introduces this classmate of hers from her acting class, Terrell. I think the question you had of do they get racist or were they already racist is answered when they see Terrell and they immediately say, like, we don't want any trouble or whatever, right? They think he's like going to rob the place.
Yeah, so that becomes a question. And that was the first thing I thought of. So I heard the name Terrell and I was like, okay, so this is going to be a black guy. Like,
yeah,
that's just one of the, like, okay, the name kind of put that out there. And then the reaction when he walked in, like, oh, we're closed. Oh, we don't want any issues, man. Like, oh my God, they didn't get racist. They already were. Like, what is, and the look on Dee's face as this is going on.
Oh, she's horrified.
Is just, yeah. Like,
she's interested in Terrell.
Have you ever had that look on your face where, like, your friends or family has done something so horrible, and you were just like, I cannot
Yes.
believe you've just done this.
Yes. Probably more than I would like, but yes, I've had that. I've had that face for sure. But Terrell like tells this story, right? Like you said, there's the N bomb, the N word dropped in this here. And later on, Charlie is going to quote this, which you shouldn't do, by the way. He quotes this at the cafe, and his crush, the waitress, overhears this and believes he's racist because of this. She's like, "Oh, very nice, Charlie." Like, want to also highlight.
What else is she supposed to think when she walks up and hears that?
Yeah, I know, especially what they're saying too. It's not just the N word; it's that they're hanging from rafters, right? Like, it does sound not great in that regard.
There's no way to make that sound great. Like there's.
And I want to highlight the waitress, the person that plays her, is Charlie Day's wife. I think they met while doing the show, or maybe before the show, but they were not married at that point. But they got married later on. And actually, Rob McElhenney and Caitlin Olsen are married as well. So they got married through the show as well. So Glenn Howerton's wife shows up at some point as like another character in the show, but just funny that's how it goes. So like, the waitress can't stand Charlie. They're actually married in real life. But Charlie and Mac set out to prove that they are not racist. They go to like Temple University, I think it is, and they're trying to find minorities to hang out with. Have you ever played the game that they're playing? What do they call it? Bones?
Yeah, domino. It's basically dominoes. I'm not very good at it. I've played it a few times. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I never really. The only way I know how to play dominoes is stacking them up and knocking them down.
Nah, I can't even explain to you because I don't know and understand the game that well. But you're matching them up and getting points and things. But it is a fairly common game with a lot of people. I played it a few times. Not really my thing. So.
Yeah. I just like I had no clue what they're doing. Like I see what they're doing. I understand it's a game, but when I'm just like, okay, I don't know what. When Charlie like wins, I'm like, yeah, I guess he did. I don't know. But he gets the number of a young girl named Janelle. Charlie does, and he just throws it over his shoulder after she leaves. But Max sees this as the perfect chance to prove that they're not racist by him going on a date with her. Charlie thinks kind of the same. We'll talk about what he does with this later on. He takes that a further step, but Terrell starts bringing in big business to Patty's Pub here, and it turns out it becomes a big sausage fest, right? They're starting to realize it's a lot of dudes hanging out here, but they're making a lot of money. And I love this.
For D. D is not making any money.
She's not getting any tips, but the bar itself is doing like the most it's ever done. Like I think they said they made more in one night than they did like the whole time they had the bar or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous like that. As you'll see throughout the show, dear listener, if you're not familiar with the show, the bar is not very crowded most of the time. But this time it was.
I think even in the Abbott crossover, one of the characters on there like kind of recognized them from the bar, and they're like, "You guys are the degenerate owners of that shitty or that crappy bar on the other side of town, Patty's Pub." And I was like, "Oh well, apparently this bar has been going through some things for quite a long time. How it's still open, we'll never know."
Yeah, it does kind of get, I guess, a resolution in that regard because in one of the episodes, Frank buys the bar and he has money. So I guess, like, at a certain point, they don't really care. But yeah. But yeah, they're bringing in business. And, you have, at first, Dennis is kind of, I would say, a little taken aback until they start really hitting on him, and then he starts, it cuts over to him and he's like dancing for them and like
he's got a tight shirt on. Yeah.
Yeah. He's loving it. He's like swirling around. But they have this great scene where like, Mac and D are like kind of complaining about the being a gay bar, and then it just cuts to Dennis and Charlie just like laughing over how much money they're bringing in and just absolutely loving it.
So I would say this. I think if you're gonna do that, you can't go halfway. You gotta go whole hog. So like either, and I don't know the logistics of running a pub or a bar or how this works. I know like in especially so like around military towns, right? You have a couple bars or clubs and they might have certain theme nights. So one night it'd be like country western night. One night would be like R&B night or whatever. But that's mainly because they're serving a plethora of clientele and there's probably not a lot of space or there's zoning issues about how many bars and pubs and different things they can be. So some of them just have different theme nights. To me, you either got to, like I said, you either got to be a gay bar and a gay pub or not a gay bar and a pub. Like, so I think like they have to make a choice at some point to be like, if we're going to do this, we have to go in all the way as compared to let's just do it a couple nights a week or whatever. And then the other nights will be have our regular clientele. Like to me, that's not going to work. And at some point it's going to suffer. So you got to do one or the other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Dennis and Charlie are full on ready to. They mentioned like when they're talking to each other, like they got to change like branding or whatever. Right? They're just kind of like, yeah, we'll do it. It's worth it. Mac and D are not on board. Mac's reasons. Yeah, well, yeah. Mac's reason is more to do with religiously. Throughout the show, he will be portrayed as a very like, raised Catholic, does not like, does not want to go against the church in that regard. Spoilers in the sense of there's running jokes about Mac being gay anyway. He does end up coming out and is gay in the show. So that's way later on down the line. But so it's a little bit of him, I would say, like almost self-hate here with how he is with gay people. And then D is just, she doesn't like not having the attention. She doesn't like the fact that
she's not the hot bartender anymore.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love it when they're like, when the guy asks D for like, oh, I'm waiting for the cute one. And she's like, the cute one. And it's Dennis back there.
Point to her brother.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have, they do a vote. And Dee's vote doesn't count because she's not actually an owner. She's just the employee. So the vote is 2-1 for
How
being
does she
a gay
not
bar.
own part of the bar?
I think what the
Did they
thing
ever
is,
explain that?
I think what originally the idea was that these three went in on it as high school friends, as like friends were like, oh, let's own a bar. And then those three did it. And I'm assuming she just kind of came in as like needing a job and became a bartender, or they were like, we'll use her as a bartender type of thing. But no, I don't think it's really addressed, unless if it is later on and I don't recall. But
okay.
Yeah, I think the idea is just that these three friends bought in a bar and, she just hangs out with them. So Charlie is going to take Janelle on a date, and they go to the coffee shop. And he pretty much takes her on the date just to go up to the waitress and say, that's my date. I'm not racist. And they start bickering, and Janelle walks over to them.
And then asks, do you want to go out on a
date
date with me? And then tries to get the waitress to go out on a date with him.
Yeah, the waitress does not care for this at all. Tells Janelle what's going on, and Janelle punches him in the eye. Dee is going to come up with a plan to end the gay bar experiment. So she tells Mac to get Dennis blackout drunk. Also, we have during this, Terrell is like avoiding advances from Dee, and eventually he's like, hey, like I'm gay, and she wasn't picking up on that fact. He's like,
yeah, he's like
drama
I'm musical theater and I'm in musical theater in Philadelphia. I didn't think He needed to announce it. Meanwhile, he's sending out the hints to Dennis big time.
Yes. Yeah, because so when they go, when he first lets all the gay people into the bar, he like looks Dennis up and down too, like before they all walk in.
He looks Dennis. He looks down on Dennis quite a bit
Yes.
throughout this show, and I was just like, "Geez, leave a little subtlety there, man."
Yeah. Well, he was subtle enough for D, I guess. So you got to give it to him there. And I guess Dennis wasn't picking up on it either.
No, Dennis. Well, no, Dennis he picked up on it because he kept seeing him like he kept watching him as he was like looking him up and down or like grabbed his shoulders or grabbed his hand or something. So Dennis was picking up on it for sure. I mean, you could tell he was getting a little uncomfortable with it.
But
I think that's also one of the reasons why at first he wasn't for it, because he felt uncomfortable with what's his name.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until all of a sudden he started getting all the attention from all the other gay guys that were there. He was like, okay, maybe I can play into this a little bit.
Terrell's going to meet up with them, and Dee brings Janelle. And we find out that Terrell and Janelle are brother and sister. So Terrell is going to kind of withdraw his involvement here because Janelle obviously has filled him in on who the Charlie was. Janelle wasn't aware that these they were not aware of them all being, involved here. Dee realized it when Charlie said Janelle. Dennis also comes in saying that it's done as well because he finds himself in bed with a guy and thinks he slept with him. It's up to debate if that's what happened, I guess. But,
I don't think there's any debate.
They did hand stuff, at least, what they said, right?
Okay, so after he got blacked out, and they show him in the bed. I immediately was like, oh, that's a guy. Like, because all you see is like the back and long blonde hair, and I was like, oh, that's a guy. This is about to get really interesting. So so maybe there's a debate of what he did with the blonde in his bed. I don't think there's any debate about what happened with anyone else that they showed, because like you said, that rather large fella came in, gave him a slap, and said, "How's that ass?" So something else happened between him and other people. There's no debate on that, I don't think.
And, Mac obviously asked Dee at the end, like, what did you, get your actor friends to do? And she said, oh, they couldn't make it. So this was real, right, is the implication here.
And then there was the whole, so you experimented, and then you want to take things back to the way it was. The whole experiment thing that they kept harping on.
Yes, yeah. Because Dennis is, thinking, why are you using that wording? What? Do you know? He's kind of taken aback during all this. What? Why are you saying it like that? But yeah, so that's the end of the first episode here. I do have to pause real quick. I just have to put the baby down. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so that was the end of the first episode. Do any last thoughts on that episode before we dive into Charlie Gets Crippled?
No. That pretty much kind of sets up how much of a dirtbag all these characters are.
Yeah,
we kind of get a gist.
Yeah, so we get the Charlie Gets Crippled. This was season 2, episode 1. Frank Reynolds is back in town and surprises the gang. Charlie was not getting in the Dennis's car and is walking behind it, but the jump scare of seeing his father makes Dennis go in reverse and run over Charlie. They then have this whole... Yeah, go ahead.
So 2 things. He's probably a lovely guy, but I think if I'm in a car and I see Danny DeVito just randomly pop out in front of my vehicle, I'd be a little scared. I don't know if that would make me put the vehicle in reverse, but that probably frightened me a little bit, of random Danny DeVito in front of my car in the middle of the night. 2, there's an awful lot of drunk driving in this show.
Oh yeah.
Kind of. I'm kind of, even though it's on cable, I'm kind of surprised that's allowed to go through. Like, usually that's one of those things, unless it's like integral to the story. Especially nowadays, like smoking, drugs, or like drunk driving or something. That's usually, censors or whatever the what's it usually called? Whatever networks usually have, right?
Right.
Are usually the ones that are like, we can't really have that. Now, granted, this is cable, and if it's FX, so maybe, and like you said, The Shield and Nip Tuck had been on, and they had done some definitely off the wall things that probably wouldn't be allowed on anything other than HBO. So I maybe that's why it's allowed to happen there. I don't know, but I was kind of surprised at that, because this is not the only time we see them getting hammered and then just, oh, you're driving and going wherever. Like, wait a minute.
Right. Yeah, interesting. I didn't really think of that, but yeah, I think it's partly is what it's on. I also think I think they treat the audience in the sense of, this is TVMA. These are assholes. They're kind of knowing that, like, you shouldn't be following this, but I think you're right that nowadays that might not even get a pass as much on stuff because of that. I feel like back then, 2006, like, I don't know the last time they showed drink driving in this show, but I would say 2006 was a different time, right? It's probably fair to say, I think. Yeah, I don't know if they would do this again.
Standards and practices. That's what I was thinking of. Standards and practices. Yeah. Usually standards and practices will come through and be like, yeah, that can't happen.
Yeah, I also think, like you said, probably the fact of FX probably, I think, just wanting to compete with, like, HBO, in the sense of, like, let's give these people whatever they want freedom to do on all these shows. And it's just, cable after FX as well, I feel like it started doing this more. Like, AMC started letting shows get away with a little bit more on, like, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and Walking Dead, in the sense of, like, before, cable channels used to kind of follow FCC regulations, not that they had to, because they're not over the air, but
yeah,
they would kind of do that just because they're like, well, that's kind of
we're not HBO
status quo.
Basically,
right?
Like
We're not a premium
like HBO,
channel. Yeah.
Cinemax, Showtime had those shows where they would show a lot of nudity. Yeah, and maybe that was the thing, because you had to pay an additional whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't realize they didn't want to push their boundaries as much because they didn't want to cause any issues. And then once you started getting The Shield and some of these things that push boundaries, and they realized the FCC not only wasn't going to go after them, but probably couldn't go after them as much because of the rules and regulations dealing with cable, that could have changed everything there.
Yeah, and that ended up, all these other channels started kind of pushing the envelope, and then that's kind of largely moved to streaming now, I feel like, right? A lot of these cable networks, I don't feel like they've started slashing their stuff, or maybe are not as risky as they used to be, because those risks are being taken on, like, Apple or Netflix nowadays. But yeah, so they run over Charlie. Then we get, like, the hospital scene, and it's just mainly focused here on Frank, Dennis, and Dee, where he wants, he tells them that he has some bad news. Their mother's dead. And then hits them with well, she's not really dead. We're getting a divorce. It's like some sort of tactic of, like, giving them the bad news or whatever, and then switching it over to the better news. But he wants to be a good father and spend more time with them. So he's giving all of his money away, and he's leaving their whore mother, as he keeps saying, right? And they're having this whole family argument in the waiting room.
And only Danny DeVito could kind of get away with this conversation where you're just like...
Yeah. Yeah. And it's gonna cut to Charlie and Mac just still sitting in this waiting room, hearing all of this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds like a private conversation." But Frank's gonna take Charlie to the strip club, and they're gonna
Because
go
that's where they
here.
were on the way. That's where they were on their way to in the
Yes.
first place.
And they're giving him some sympathy. You know, he finds, the strippers are showing sympathy towards him
Because
here,
he's in a
and
wheelchair and his legs are in casts and he can't really move.
yeah, exactly. And they get free lap dances for Charlie. Um, they're gonna go back to Charlie's place as well. It's Charlie, Mac, Frank, and the strippers. We get like Charlie racing his wheelchair down and trying to outrun Mac. Strippers are riding on both of them. But Frank is going to end up stealing the show here. He's going to end up, I guess the strippers love Frank more. I don't know if it's for his money or just because he's having a good time, but Frank ends up locking them out of the room here and gives Charlie some money to go down to Wawa and get him some sodas here. Talk about a Philadelphia reference there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like I said, this is probably the most Philadelphia show there ever could be.
Yeah, Wawa. They're expanding. They're down to Florida now, but yeah, around me as well. There's lots of Wawas. I'm close to Philly, so that
gotta love regionality, man. When you get
Yeah.
into Texas, it's Buc-ee's.
There's Buc-ee's now in South Carolina and Florida, and my parents are obsessed with Buc-ee's.
Oh, people love those things. But then again, people in your area love Wawa. So it's another one of those, like, it's a regionality thing, man. Like, people in those areas love their things. The one thing I missed from that area, that when I went to go visit my friend in Maryland a few years ago, I went to like 2 or 3 times, Friendly's. I grew up around Friendly's. Yeah, because I grew up in New York and Massachusetts. So the ice cream is so good. And it's pretty cool as a little dining type thing.
There's one in my mall here, but the mall is failing, so I don't know how much longer it's got. But
those the ice cream sundaes that they have, oh man, I love those things. The Jim Dandy, it's like 5 scoops of ice cream, just
nice. Yeah, I don't go to Friendly's a lot, so I didn't realize it was. I know it's more on, like, I guess over here, but I didn't realize it was.
No, it's only like an.
Huh. So Dennis and Dee, hearing that their parents are divorcing, go into their parents' house to steal items that belong to them or that they have always wanted. And they start having an argument in Patty's about these items as well. They even put up like a little taped line and, you can't cross the line. And they're putting their items on each side of the building. And, Dennis even grabs like this lamp that Dee wanted and she wants it on her side. So he throws it over to her side and it shatters. Just, very sibling stuff, I guess. In that regard.
And then D might have taken it too far.
Yeah.
With the elephant.
Oh, yeah. Ripping off Mr. Tibbs' head.
Mr. Tibbs.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, that is a reference I had not gotten when I first watched this. But, like, when she's even being like, oh, is that what they call you? Is that what they call you? And then she rips his head off.
Oh, you didn't get the they call him Mr. Tibbs reference?
Not when I first watched this. No, like 15 years ago. No, I did not.
You know what? In all fairness, The Heat of the Night was something. I remember the movie from when I was a kid, and then there was a TV show.
Yeah.
So that's something I caught immediately when she said it, but that's also because that's older generation. So the whole they call me Mr. Tibbs. Just
they pull that in. They do that in Psych as well with Gus.
Yeah,
I think that's when I first heard it and then learned about it. But yeah. So then Mac wheels in here to Patty's and tells Dennis that they should fake being crippled to get women. and Dennis is pretty on board with this. So they go do that. Frank, meanwhile, wants to live with Charlie, and they have this little offer to pay his rent for 6 months, which Charlie tries to get to 12, which Frank stays at 6 until Charlie gets to 8, I think. And then it's, he says 4, and then Charlie says 6, and then they land on 6. Charlie feels like he won with that. But Charlie gets a new idea as he's seeing this military uniform in the shop window here to get respect. I love the way they set this up too, where you see like the actual Marine uniform, and in the back you see that like Vietnam military Fu Manchu, goatee. That's the one Charlie picks. Did you see that coming, or do you think he was going to be wearing the full Marine look?
I didn't. I thought he was going to go with the Marine look. I also love the whole aspect of who gets the most respect. Athletes, movie stars, these people, that people, and like it finally came down to like veterans.
Yeah, because it's true, right? Like, military does get respect, but I do think, we have this culture of people worshiping athletes and celebrities.
Now you would have to add influencers, or have to add influencers or like YouTube celebrities in there.
There's
video game streamers.
There is a term in the next episode that caught me off guard that we'll talk about that like aged differently, I think, than what it was intended. So Charlie picks the Vietnam looking one, and the person asks like, what's going on? He's like, I was a nom, and he's going way overboard on the role play here, and it does not help him like at all. And now Frank is feigning being a cripple, and he's got like the fancy rolling wheelchair with the the one that has like
the one that you control by breathing and stuff.
Going overboard here. Mac and Dennis are faking having polio in the mall.
Where are you coming up with polio, man? Like they got rid of polio in like the 50s. Like, Jesus.
It was a little topical though now, because polio not really making a comeback, but with the way people are about vaccines, there's a reason we haven't had polio.
It's gonna end up making a goddamn comeback.
Right. Exactly. That was something too that I was watching. It's like, maybe they could actually have polio now.
Yeah, but like, the thing is, I know in other countries, there are some developing countries where polio is still a thing, right? Or it up until maybe recently had been a thing, but it wasn't eradicated like it was here in the U.S. in like the 40s or 50s or 60s or whatever it was. But when it was like, I've got polio, I'm like, of all the things you had to say polio, you couldn't just be like, I hurt my leg. Like, you went with polio, man? Like,
well, you see, Dennis has a very like sick mind. This is a perfect encapsulation of the two characters here. Dennis has a very sick mind where he thinks this stuff out, and then he's like, oh, because my legs are muscular, right? He says they're too muscular, that nobody would believe I'm really crippled, so I have to wear a blanket, so I'll tell them I have polio, and I'm doing this FDR type of, look. Mac's character is just, I'm going to copy that, even though it doesn't make any sense.
He's along for the ride.
He just goes with it. He wants to join in.
Yeah, he's along for the ride. Whatever.
And as soon as they see another person with a wheelchair, Mac's like, we have polio.
Yeah, first, all the guy says is like, hi. That's just like, hey, man, how's it going? We have polio. Like, wow, you couldn't even say hi first. You just jump straight to we have polio. Like,
this awkward standoff where they're just staring at each other. But first, before they run into that guy, they're like, what the hell is this? And it's Dee with her back brace and crutches in a store getting a lot of attention. they end up fighting over this polio story, and they end up actually getting out of their chairs and like beating each other. And we see that wheelchair man up the floor above watching them, and Dee, coming over with her crutches, like, what happened? And he's like, these people are faking being disabled for attention. And she's like, I forget what she calls them, like, what a bunch of jerks or whatever, ridiculous. And then you just see her. Caitlin Olsen plays this perfectly too, where she is giving them grief about this, and then immediately it's cutting to her, like, doing this comically bad, like, crutch walk that she's doing to, being a hypocrite here. But then, she runs into Frank, who is, she's on a date with, I think, the guy who was helping her in the one shop, but she meets somebody, and then everybody is starting to meet up here. Dennis and Mac are driving, like you said, drunk.
Charlie and Frank are having an argument because Frank is still in his thunder with his wheelchair.
Yes.
And
I love this too. And Frank's like, what the hell's up with the crutches right in front of her date? And, what a way to find that out, I guess. And then, they crash Dennis crashes into them. We cut back to the hospital. They're arguing. Frank's like, shut up. Don't you guys ever like stop arguing? Let's go out to ice cream. And he says, thank God no one important was seriously hurt. And it cuts over to Dee's date in the hospital bed, who says, what a bunch of assholes.
As soon as he said that, I was like, they're in the hospital room with the other guy. The other guy just got demolished. Like, as soon as he said that, I was like, there's someone else there. God damn it.
Yeah, they don't care about anybody else, right? But yeah, okay. Anything else about Charlie Gets Crippled before we go in? Your thoughts on Frank maybe fitting in? Do you think he fit in seamlessly on the show, or like was it a little jarring? Like, what was your thoughts there?
He does fit in very well. I'll say I did looked up a little bit of research last night when I was watching this, and saw that apparently they only had him they had Danny DeVito for a very limited amount of time. So they had to like film season. All of his scenes for the entire season during this time period. So they were like filming random bits from various episodes because they had to fit everything in with him. I know a lot of times studios give notes and it ends up being like a Poochie type situation. For those who may not know, that's something from The Simpsons during the golden age of The Simpsons, where, if I remember correctly, the executives at Fox had wanted The Simpsons to add a new character to the show. And what they did was they made fun of that on the show by adding Poochie, another character, to the Itchy and Scratchy show, and ended up turning all the people who watch Itchy and Scratchy against it. And then Poochie went away on a spaceship to his own planet. And we've seen this in other shows. I want to say, was it the Brady Bunch with like Cousin Oliver? Married with Children had a kid called Seven, where same thing. He was there for a period of time, and then he disappeared. But a lot of times, like the Cosby Show did it. Rudy Huxtable had, as she started to grow up as the show went on, she aged out, and she was no longer the little cute kid. So that was, and after, I want to say after A Different World had kind of, or Lisa Bonet had some issues with A Different World, and she was no longer on that. But one of her, like, they had a kid that was in college that they just no longer talked about, so they brought her back, and she married a dude in the Navy. I think, speaking of another Philadelphia show, she married a dude in the Navy, and then that's where Raven-Symoné's character came up, because they wanted another kid in the show, because like basically Rudy had aged out of that period, so they needed another young cute kid. So a lot of times executive notes, and after a period of time, they want to add another person, or a sexy person, or a hot person, or a cute kid, or they want to add someone else, and it can mess up a show. I think this was probably one of the few times I can remember where they decided to add someone and it didn't take away from the show. It actually added to it.
Yeah, and Frank is I would say Frank is not my favorite character of the show. I know for a lot of people he is, but this is maybe that's why I can enjoy season 1 so well without him. But he does add a different element to it, and he's introduced as Dennis and Dee's father. That they will later on just start calling him Frank instead of Dad, because it turns out that potentially Frank is not their biological father. So that's an episode, I think, in season 2. But at some point, they just start calling him Frank, and then you almost forget that he was introduced as their father. But yeah, this is Danny DeVito in the show. We'll go to episode 3. Dennis and Dee go on welfare. They decide to leave the bar to follow their dreams. They're tired of Frank bossing them around, and Mac and Charlie are like playing, games on the TV. So they're like, you know what? We're out of here. We don't need this. While they're doing this, they figure out that, Dee submits for unemployment, and they find out they can qualify for $400 a week, which they say is more than they make at the bar. So they're somehow surviving in Philadelphia on less than $400.
Well, have you seen those apartments?
Well, Charlie's is not great, but Dennis's apartment looked pretty good in this shot.
Okay, so
they're doing over.
I'll also say I know Philadelphia is kind of probably an expensive city. So around this time, I was in Georgia. I was probably paying $600-700 a month for rent. The first apartment I got in Georgia after I couldn't stay in the barracks anymore, once I had enough rank and I had to move out, was $450 a month.
Wow.
And that was in 2000. So 2006, Philadelphia. I mean, it'd be tight. It's not easy, but $400 a week, $1,600 a month. They could have gotten a place and been okay, been struggling. But, yeah, like I can obviously now, like, look, I pay $1,900 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment out here in Southern California. I've been in the same apartment complex since 2016. And when I first moved out here in 2016, it was $995 a month.
Wow.
So,
that's insane. That's insane. I mean,
absolutely.
like, yeah, when we ended up buying our house, it was our mortgage was cheaper than if we were renting somewhere. Like, that's kind of how insane it's gotten lately. So yeah, I mean, part of me chalked this up to it being like 2006.
Yeah.
When this is going on, but we already see they don't do much business at the bar. So, yeah, so they're making more from unemployment than they are there. Charlie and Mac also get tired of Frank bossing them around. So they, then we cut to Dennis and Dee sitting on the stoop, listening to music and drinking at like, I think Mac says it's like
9 in the morning or something.
9,
Or 11 in the morning or something.
Early. Mac asked them to come back. Dennis and Dee mock him, doing like the fake crying, motion and everything. And Dennis is still go on welfare next. And Mac takes offense to this, saying, "You got it. That's for people that actually need it. Like, you shouldn't be on that." But this is going to give Mac an idea for this program called Work for Welfare, in which they'll find employees that would work in the bar, but they're still like collecting welfare, but it's like a program to help people, I guess, get employment experience while on welfare.
Get back out of the job force or something, or help them maybe get an actual job.
But the thing is, like, the bar doesn't have to pay for them, right? So that's Mac's idea of like, and before that, though, Frank is going to give Charlie all of his money to hide it from his ex-wife and give it in Charlie's name, so that way, she can't get half of her money, I guess, during the divorce. We'll see if that backfires or not. But Mac brings this idea of the work for welfare to them, and they're like, "Oh, we won't abuse it," all this, but it ends with Frank saying, "Go get us some slaves." So we already know this is not going to go well for the welfare people. But Mac and Charlie go to the welfare offices, and we have this whole, "What about that one? He seems strong," or no, he seems lazy. It's like, "Oh, you can't say that." It's like, I'm not saying it because he's black. I'm saying it because he's sleeping. You know what this reminded me of a bit too is the Key and Peele sketch where they're on the auction. Have you seen that one?
The slave auction?
Yes.
The slave auction? Yes.
Yeah.
That might be one of their best sketches ever.
It is so good. But it kind of reminded me of that with how they're talking about it and stuff. But
I will not allow bigoted slaves.
we have this great moment where they go up to the window asking for it, and this lady gives them this whole binder of stipulations that the program has. So they don't really want to read this. But as they're leaving, they run into Dennis and Dee, who are applying for welfare. And Dee is going to be posing as a mentally handicapped woman, while Dennis is saying he's a recovering crack addict.
And while not the word, yes, that is the term that would probably be most beneficial for what Dee is portraying here.
Back then that word was not as taboo as it is now. Just watch Family Guy used it all the time on censored episodes. I mean, like that, it was a very different time. But yeah, Dee brings her
bicycle helmet. Yeah.
The lady's like, you need proper medical paperwork.
Like, can't you just tell how handicapped she is? No, it's not how this works.
Yeah. She's like, you're a recovering crack addict. Okay, sure. So
you know what gave him away on that one? He has teeth.
Well, here's the thing too, okay? Any normal human being, this is the end of the line for that plan. Right? You're like, you know what? Maybe we just go get a job. But Dennis and Dee are not normal human beings. Their idea is we'll make the doctor's appointment for the blood work, and then we'll smoke a little bit of crack to get it in our blood system so we can qualify for welfare. But they have no clue what they're doing, too.
Here's where their plan failed as well. Not only of the let's just smoke a little bit of crack to get some crack in our system. So when they get whatever blood work or medical work they need, right? Mm-hmm. They also need some sort of medical documentation about the fact that Dee is mentally handicapped.
Well, I think now the plan is they're both going to be crack addicts when they go on welfare.
Okay, maybe that was the plan, and I just missed over that portion. But I was like, wait a minute, they still need something that shows Dee is, or Sweet Dee as she is called at various times.
Yes,
that she is mentally handicapped.
Yeah, no, I think once they need proper medical paperwork, I think Dennis is going to change the plan here. I don't think it's said in the show, but that's kind of what I get by them both taking crack. But they have no clue what they're doing. They roll up to, I guess, wherever they're supposed to buy it, and they're clearly first-time buyers, and the guy is like, I'll do 2 for 1 then. And then he's like, they're like, great, how much? He's like, 200? They're like, sure, yeah, that sounds like a deal.
While he's in a Range Rover.
They want 1 crack rock is what they say too. Yeah. 1 crack rock.
While they're sitting in a Range Rover,
yes,
in an area trying to buy crack in a very rough part of Philadelphia.
Yeah, they're scared, not because he's black, right? It was the neighborhood. The neighborhood's a little.
He did not only that, but he did just kind of pop up on him too. Like,
yeah, he did. I just, they're always trying to justify that they are not racist.
So I'll buy that Dee's probably not racist, considering she did have the thing for what's his name there.
Yeah.
The rest of the gang, I don't know.
Dee will do some racist things later on. Some of those episodes may not be available anymore because they had blackface in them, but Dee does some questionable things. Frank wants to spend time with Mac and Charlie. Wants to play football with them, play some video games with them, and they don't really want to hang out with Frank. So they go in, while the welfare workers are cleaning the bathroom, they just go in and have this conversation while Charlie's peeing next to the lady cleaning the other urinal.
Yeah.
I could never do that. I freeze up if somebody's next to me, honestly. I cannot, I would not be able to do that. And then of course he flushes the toilet, and it's like the issue it has with it squirts everywhere on her. So not great for her. But they mention needing money, and Charlie's like, I got money. And they're going to end up spending some of Frank's money, just enough to have a quiet night out. And it cuts to them partying. They have the limo. They have strippers or hookers or, whatever. They're talking about pimps that are going to collect on the money at the end here. So
they have like they're having hats and tuxedos or something.
Yeah, like tuxedos and top hats. Yeah. Dee wakes up and tells Dennis that they slept till 4. That means they only missed their appointment by an hour. Dennis realizes they missed it by a day and an hour. They slept that long, and they are so cold and shaking from their crack addiction. I love this moment here. Dee's like, maybe we can make another appointment. And they're like, will they be able to see us on short notice? It cuts to them back with the drug dealer. It's like, thank you for seeing us on such short notice. So it wasn't that they're trying to make another doctor's appointment. They're going back to get more crack. We then see them like outside, laying around. They look all pale now. They're addicted. They're just talking about how they want more money so they can buy more crack. They're fully in it now. But Charlie and Mac are riding in the limo, and they stop as they see Dennis and Dee on the side of the road, and they're like rubbing it in their faces in the limo. I missed this the last time I watched it, but Frank injures one of these welfare workers by playing football. The guy's like, I didn't realize it would be like like tackle or something, full contact. Yeah. Frank gets a call from the bank here about, his money. So that makes Charlie get declined at the ATM, and they end up having just to run away from the limo and the women and just get out of Dodge here. Dennis and Dee talk about going back to work, but they really just want to work so they can buy more crack or get the rehab. They start talking about how they might actually need rehab. Mac and Charlie run into them and start mocking them. This is the clip I used for the show on the podcast where it's did somebody get addicted to crack, as Mac is making the mocking face back to them. From earlier, Frank arrives, tells Dennis and Dee that they have to do Charlie's work. He promotes Charlie to manager for stealing the money. It showed initiative or whatever. Mac gets nothing because he's a follower and a thief. And Frank just has this line when his children ask him, why are they doing this? He's like, because you're crackheads, children. And that's Dennis and Dee go on welfare.
Okay, so does Charlie end up staying as like the manager of the bar, or does that eventually change?
It goes for a couple of episodes, but there is the Dennis and Dee are doing what they call Charlie work for a bit, but there is an episode later on where what episode would that be? I think it ends next week. Mac bangs Dennis's mom is the next episode. And that is I think they do something to get out of Charlie work in that one. But yeah, so there you go. There is that. Any other thoughts on going on welfare, getting addicted to crack?
I did not anticipate the crackhead aspect. That escalated pretty quickly right there. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying it escalated pretty quickly.
No, that's partly why I think I chose it. It's one of those where it's like you look at the title, you're like, okay, maybe they're gonna end up abusing the welfare system, but it takes a dark turn there with them buying crack to try to get on welfare and then just becoming so addicted to crack. They don't even really get on welfare. They don't even have time the doctor appointment. They just keep buying more crack instead of getting on welfare.
They should have followed Bugs Bunny's lead and taken that left-hand turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah. Man, that is I'm just looking. There's like the guy who directed that episode directed every episode in season 2 except for Charlie Gets Crippled, which was directed by Rob McElhenney. Kind of interesting. But yeah, so like some of these episode titles for season 2 are, The Gang Goes Jihad, Mac Bangs Dennis's Mom, Dennis and Dee Get a New Dad, $100 Baby, which is a play on $1 Million Baby. The very similar ending there. But yeah, I feel like most people usually say like season 2 or season 3 is when it really starts finding itself. Most people agree that the last few seasons haven't been as good. I mean, it's kind of tough, I think, when you get to 16 seasons. There's still some gems in there, I think, but definitely not I would say the peak of the show is probably like season 7. Like, like the where it is, where maybe it starts going down after that, but. All right. Do we want to go into? I forget how we kind of do ratings for TV shows, but let's go with, because I don't know. Like, I don't know if Rotten Tomatoes is a good metric for TV shows.
Yeah, and especially I think when I used when I did like the X-Files, I used like IMDb and a couple, but I also gave you like. Also, the 3 I gave you for that were like 3 of the top rated ones. So those weren't hard to really.
That's a good idea. I'll pull up IMDb for that. The show as a whole is Rotten Tomatoes 94%, 91% popcorn meter. That's for the whole show. The individual episodes on IMDb, it's 8.8 total on IMDb. If I go to the episodes. Okay. Season 1, Gang Gets Racist, 8.1 out of 10. That's actually higher than I thought it would be. Charlie Gets Crippled was
for a pilot, yeah.
Yeah, Charlie Gets Crippled, 8.4 out of 10, and Dennis and Dee Go on Welfare, 9.0 out of 10. So I guess I gave you some good rated ones. The top rated of the season, I think, is the next one, Mac Bangs Dennis's Mom, which was going to be one of my picks, but I felt like I had to set up the whole Frank introduction. So, but yeah. I give these episodes, I usually rate stuff out of 5 out of 5. I like all 3 of these episodes. I would probably do so, but I'm curious on your thoughts, Casey. You've been it's sometimes hard to get a read on what you feel as we go through the show. And as we've always said, we do not talk about this offline. You sent me a message saying you had thoughts. What are those thoughts? What is this show? Are you going to watch more?
Okay, so I have, like I said, I have heard a lot about this show in many years. I've added it to my queue several times, just never got around to watching it. These are some of the worst, most degenerate people in the history of television. Yet somehow I am enthralled by their degenerate activity. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the part of me that knows I could never get away and do these things.
Yeah, definitely.
But I get why this show is so spectacular. It is. I finished all of season 1 yesterday.
Oh, did you?
After I watched these, after I it was tough for me to try and keep all of this in during the last hour and a half or so, and throughout yesterday. But I caught up with all the Final Destination yesterday, so I can go see the new one today in a couple hours, and then I was like, okay, let me watch some more of this. So then I went back. I was like, okay, saw the pilot. Let me pick up at episode 2, and I watched all of season 1. And I saw Charlie Wants an Abortion.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw the underage drinking, and I was just like, what in the hell is wrong with these people?
Yeah, when they're
And
worried about going
then
to a high school prom.
yeah, like, and one of them's jealous because he's not invited to the prom. And I'm just like, what is going on? But I love this show. And then the last episode I watched yesterday was the gang joins a jihad or whatever it is. And I was just like, what are you doing? So now I'm fully caught up. I have to pick back. My next episode is the same one that you just brought up.
Oh, Bangs
Dennis
Dennis's
Bangs
mom.
Max
Dennis Bangs
Mac Bang
yeah, Max
Max
Bangs
mom.
Dennis.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
somebody's mom is getting banged, and I gotta.
Yes.
I have to see what is going on with this. So yeah, I started up King of the Hill again maybe about a week ago because
Is
I
it a
know the new
reboot?
one is getting ready to come out, and I don't know when it's coming out. Because they haven't given a release. I
Yeah.
know they put that new teaser poster out, and there's supposed to be some more stuff I think coming at some things in June. So it tells me it's fairly close. But King of the Hill is another one of those that because it has like 20 some odd episodes a season, like it is King of the Hill is crazy. King of the Hill. How many episodes is King of the Hill at? 258.
Wow.
So and those are like 30 minutes a pop. I don't necessarily have to watch because I've seen them before, so I can just. But that is getting moved to the side. I noticed at least with season 1 and the ones we watched, they were only like 21 minutes long too. These are pretty quick. They move pretty quickly.
Okay, well, I was
sure
just talking. I mean, I was just talking about season 1. People saying to skip it or not because of no Frank. What was your thoughts on season 1? Frankless season 1 here.
I enjoyed season 1.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was good to see. Yeah, that was another hard thing for me to say when you brought that up. And I was one to be like, I didn't think it was that bad, but I enjoyed it. It's still the same shenanigans. It's just minus Frank. And honestly, I've only seen 3 episodes with Frank in it,
Right.
So I don't necessarily know how much more rowdy he's going to cause the gang to get, or what else is going to happen. But like I said, I think this was a good example of the notes of them bringing in someone else and it being Danny DeVito did actually help the show. The show wasn't bad without him. I don't think the show could have lasted. You've probably seen it more, so you probably answer this better. I don't know if the show could have lasted as long without Danny DeVito. I think it might have had a decent run, but at some point it probably would have.
Well, Frank just becomes so integral to it, and like he becomes such buddies with Charlie. Like they become a duo where you're getting a lot of good character stuff with them that I can't imagine the future of the show without Frank. But again, I really like those season 1. I like when, again, it shows Dennis and Charlie Wants an Abortion, who is just like Dennis and Mac are, changing their beliefs just to get with women, right? And at one point you have Dennis like climbing over the fence, and he's like literally on the fence.
He literally climbs the fence from one side of an abortion rally to go on the other, and next thing you know, because they think he's trying to attack him, he starts getting pelted by eggs, and then everyone gets pelted by eggs.
Yes, and Mac is so like I said, very Catholic. Like, oh, we can't have abortions. He meets this Catholic girl, and she says she's pregnant as a test.
Yeah, until he finds out she's pregnant. He's like, you gotta get one. Like I said, these are probably the most degenerate group of people I've ever seen. At least with something like The Shield or Breaking Bad, you know the bad guys are they're bad guys.
Yeah.
I've never watched The Shield. I know people love it, but I guess by the end of the pilot episodes, you find out that those cops are dirty cops, and that pretty much establishes them as just dirty cops. But we all know there are cops out there that are dirty. Not all cops are, but we all know that there are cops out there that are dirty anyway. And we've seen that portrayed in television, film, and various other forms of media all the time. So we get so it's nothing new, but these people are just horrible. I think I read somewhere Dennis might, I don't know if it's confirmed, but Dennis might sexually assault someone in an episode or something. And it's like,
oh, there's some implied stuff. I would say, yeah, there's hints to stuff. I don't know if it's ever really
it's never definitively come out there, but it's one of those where people are like, did this just happen? But
why do you have zip ties and rope in the back of your van, Dennis? That type of stuff,
And like I said, and I think that ties into what I brought up earlier, where he's like, on the Abbott Elementary episode, he's like, I know a little bit about consent and filming.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna pop back here behind the camera, and I'm really curious to see what happens in the other side of that crossover that they filmed from the It's Always Sunny side. Yeah. When that episode comes out, I may jump straight to that episode just so I can see.
Yeah.
Because I saw the other portion. I don't want to wait until I catch up with it. I want to see what their goings on with that whole thing really is. And that's it is definitely a show I'm going to continue to watch. It is. I can see why people have it as some of their favorite shows. I can also see why some people are saying that they can't get behind the show. It's too crass. It's too rude.
Yeah.
It some of the things that people may not like about it, I can understand and say yeah, I get why you might not like this show. It's not for you. And that's okay. Kind of like you with Quentin Tarantino movies. They're not for you. Right. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. But I can also understand why some people love this show. And I think I'm falling in that camp of, yeah, I got to watch more of this and see what the hell else these guys do.
Well, good, because I'm there's so many episodes I could have picked that I want you to see. So the fact that you're going to keep watching is music to my ears, because I had this dilemma when I had to pick 3 that I'm like, oh crap. For the listeners out there, if you know which episodes I'm talking about, I would definitely, like I said, Gang Buys a Boat would have been one. The Night Man Cometh, which is season 4's finale, is probably my favorite episode of the show. I would say that season 3 through 5 run pretty much, or season 3 through 6 run is the absolute peak of the show, where you're like, man, there's just so many good episodes back to back to back.
So that was 6, 2007, 2008. So that was around 2008 to 2012 or something like that.
I think 2000. Yeah, I think season 6. Season 6 was 2010. Yeah. But you know what?
Yeah,
season 7 is really good too. I'm looking at it. I mean,
but I think that's when I think that's when I remember the popularity was huge, and the billboards and advertisements.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's when it really did hit its peak, because I remember seeing it all over the place.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, so 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, definitely. Something like that. Whatever.
I give it a 5. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely for me. I can get behind that.
We'll do some quick stats. This adds another comedy to our genre. This is our 4th TV show, I think, as well. But also, we've seen Charlie Day. We've seen Danny DeVito. So those get +1s. So they're each up to 2 projects, 1 TV show, 1 film for each of those. I'm not sure if you knew this, and I'm not going to count them because I'm not sure we're really going to see them again. But the stripper in Charlie Gets Crippled. One of them was played by Natasha Leggero, who was
Yep.
she's in Reno 911.
Comedian.
She's come out. She's a very famous comedian, I'd say.
She was in an episode of Superstore. She was the thief in the episode of Superstore.
Yes.
That Dina.
Yes.
Tiffany Haddish. That was like her first television project.
I saw that too. I saw her in the credits. I didn't notice her in the show, but I saw it in the credits. So I was like, wow, Tiffany Haddish was in this? Yeah, that shocked me. I did not remember. I did not know she was in that, but I saw it in the credits this time, and I was about to bring that up because I was like, that's not something.
I don't know. I mean, we don't know if we'll see him again, but yeah, I definitely recognize Natasha Leggero. I've listened to some of her stand up, and I've recognized her. She was, because I just finished Community. She was it's not the first time she's played an exotic dancer. She was the stripper that Jeff had got off from trial that actually ended up sleeping with Shirley's husband, Andre, when they did the whole episode, when they did the Origins episode. That was the Natasha Leggero.
Yeah, because I know her from. She was also in the Joe Schmo Show. Have you heard of that? Do you remember that?
I think I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever seen.
She was in the Joe Schmo Show, which was a reality TV show where everybody was an actor except for one guy, and it was filled with actors like Kristen Wiig before she became big, and David Hornsby, who's actually part of It's Always Sunny and is going to show up as a character later on. He was in it, Natasha Leggero, right? Like all these people were kind of cutting their teeth, I would say, like, because it was like improv where they had to react on if this guy did stuff. They had to play these characters as if they were really reality show contestants, and she was in that. Reno 911 I knew her from as well. I'm trying to think of like the thing that I like.
She's done Chelsea, when Chelsea Handler had a talk show. She was on that quite a bit.
Last Comic Standing too. She was a judge on Last Comic Standing on one of the seasons, which I used to watch that.
Chelsea Lately, she was on that quite a bit.
Oh, she's in Arrested Development as well. In the season 4, I think. But yeah, so she's been around. She's been in tons of stuff. She was in an episode of Modern Family recently in 2015. So Superstore, like you said, yeah.
I don't remember from Modern Family. I've only binged that once, but I don't remember that one.
Yeah, somewhere in season 6 it says. But yeah, so she's in a bunch of stuff. So like every time I see her pop up, it's somebody that I'm like, oh, I know her. She's in a ton of stuff. But that was really it. Like I don't think there was any other big name people that become big after that we saw in these episodes. The one guy who was Terrell, I know him from Better Off Ted, which was a TV show that was around, lasted for 2 seasons. I think he had some.
He's one of those guys,
though, but he's in a lot of stuff.
He's one of those guys I've seen around in a lot, and I recognize him, but I don't know who he is. I thought maybe at first it was the guy from Zoe Deschanel, New Girl.
Oh,
but it wasn't.
No, yeah, I know from Better Off Dead. He was also in episodes of like Psych, Monk, and The Office and stuff. But like he, I
remember him from Psych. I think he was in the one where they went to the chop shop.
Yeah, it's the racing one. Yeah, 0 to murder in 60 seconds. Yeah,
60 seconds. Yeah, where they had like the cocaine and like the wheels or something.
Yep. So he was in that. But yeah, I think he just had some sort of like harassment allegations or something, if I remember correctly. That's a bummer. But anyway, that about wraps up that. And you know what? This is actually our season finale for season 2 of Films for the Very First Time. What does that mean? That means we take a break for a bit. We kind of recharge. We'll start picking out some other stuff that we want. We'll start recording again probably in like the fall, and then start releasing them in the fall as well, and kind of run that fall to spring schedule like TV shows used to do before everything took 3 seasons before between seasons, 3 years between seasons.
And then only put out 6 episodes.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so frustrating. That's what you were saying about like season 1 being 7 episodes and have its own DVD. I was like, hey, it was actually mixed in with season 2, and it was actually pretty cheap. Nowadays, if you want to buy a TV show on DVD, that's still kind of cheaper than Blu-ray. But if you want to buy a TV show on Blu-ray, and it's from a streamer or from like HBO, it still costs you like $30, $45, somewhere around there, and it
depends how long it is. Because I
so
want to say
even ones with 8 episodes are insane.
I picked up not recently, but I picked up Chernobyl. I want to say that was probably like 40. It might have been 30 or $40. I might have got on sale, but also because it's HBO and it is like 8 episodes are pretty long. I think they're like an hour and a half or something each. But I think it probably runs for like $60, $70 normally. I'm not sure what The Last of Us runs, but I imagine that's another big one that'd probably be pretty expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I've been buying some of the Disney Plus shows, the Marvel and Star Wars shows, and they're about $45 to, and again, those are 6 to 12 episodes depending on the show, and it's insane. I used to be able to buy, like I said, like these Sunny episode shows, I would just go into Target and it'd be like on sale for like $12 to $15, but regular price would be like $19.99 for a season, and I would buy that. Like, that's not a deal breaker.
At least with the Disney stuff, the ones I've got, they do tend to throw a bunch of stuff in there, so you do get like a lot of behind the scenes features.
Yeah.
And this was at least when they were doing their own releases too. I don't know what's going to happen. Was it Sony has their distribution rights for their disc releases now?
Mm-hmm. Sony.
So who knows? Who knows what that's going to be like? But I know because I got like WandaVision. I know that had a bunch of stuff. Like I think there's a couple physical things in there as well as like behind the scenes features and commentary, a bunch of other stuff. Do you watch any of the behind the scenes or the commentaries or anything on any of the movies or discs that you own, or
no? I haven't recently on a lot of my newer stuff, but like that used to be the thing I would immediately do. Like if I bought a movie or a TV show on DVD or Blu-ray, I would come home, pop it in the disc, and I would first go to the special features, and like watch that type of stuff. Like The Office, I watched like almost every commentary of those. Usually like deleted scenes or like I probably did the commentaries for Arrested Development too. Like all those type of my favorite shows, that would be the go-to thing. Movie wise, like Star Wars, the prequels had great special featured making of documentaries that'd be like an hour long. That would be showing you the process through the whole thing. I like that's what I actually miss. And like there's not a lot of stuff that gets released now that actually has that type of stuff on it. It's a lot of bare bones stuff. Sometimes you're lucky if you get deleted scenes. You're very lucky if you get commentaries. Those things have really dropped off.
So for me, it's just the opposite. I always watch the show or the movie first. Once that's finished, then I'll go into the special features. I usually pick up I might watch the trailer to see some other trailers that they might have. Sometimes there's like the international trailer or Red Band trailer if they have it. Some other stuff in there. I'll watch deleted scenes or alternate takes on scenes. I'll flip through some of those. I've never done a commentary. For me, if I'm watching something, like I want to actually watch and listen to what's going on in the feature I'm watching. So for me, it would be weird to be watching something, but I can't listen to the action and the dialogue that's on the scene.
Well, the main point of it is like in that regard, like for let's say for like the Office episodes I watched commentaries on, I had seen those episodes like already a million times. That at that point, I already know,
Yeah,
those dialogue lines and stuff. That it's like, okay, because I really love behind the scenes stuff where they'll be like, oh, especially this was before rewatch podcasts, which this is where that you would hear those stories that they tell on those rewatch podcasts now of like, oh, during
yeah.
this take, this person said this thing and it was ad libbed, and you're like, oh wow, that's interesting.
The, the the one thing I do like, the one thing I really liked was on the Cloverfield disc.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say the Blu-ray I got for Cloverfield. So it has like a monster vision, or I forget what it's called. But basically, what it does is it shows you the movie and you hear everything that's going on in the movie, but it's not full screen because it's kind of up in the corner. Because the rest of the screen shows like New York City, like a map of New York City. And then you end up with these various dots. Like one colored dot is like the monster. One colored dot is the people you're following. One colored dot is what's his name's girlfriend that he's trying to get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's like there might be another dot for like the military. And it shows you like you see what you're watching in the movie, but it actually shows you on the map where all of these different elements that you're watching the movie are as you're watching it. So, you might see they're here and the monster's close, but his girlfriend's like way over on the other side of the island.
Yeah.
And you see like the military coming into the island or whatever. And as they start getting closer to each other and interact with each other or whatever the case is, you start seeing them come together, move apart. So that was a really interesting one for me to watch just because it gave me another visual thing to see as I'm watching the movie of where everybody is in accordance with each other. To be like, oh, okay, this, wow, they're a lot closer. And it's especially something where it's like, oh, they're actually a lot closer to that monster than they think. This is not going to end up well for them here in a minute, especially once you know what's going on in the movie. So, I mean, obviously that's a special thing for a special movie like Cloverfield, right? But if movies did something like that, I think it would be great. Like if Lord of the Rings had something like that, where they could show you on a map of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And I might have brought this up when we talked about that. I don't know. I can't remember if I did or not. But if they showed where, okay, this is where Sam and Frodo are, right? This is where I forget character names. It's been a while. This is where the other group of people are. This is where the Eye of Sauron is, right? And you can see them as they're moving through all of this stuff as they're going through the movie. But they've done so many editions of like Lord of the Rings. I mean,
yeah.
But like I know you showed me that map. Like you had that map.
Yes. Yeah, we did it our own. Yeah.
That kind of showed their trail. But like if they did something like that with the movie, I think for some people that could help immensely. Like, oh, they're way far apart. Stuff like that. This is where that band of orcs are. This is where so and so is.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess that wraps up our coverage of season 2. How's this going to work like we did last year? We'll do a season 3 trailer as we get closer, and we'll tell you what project is going to be first on the season. So it'll be Casey's pick again, because I just picked for this, so he'll start off the season. We'll see how that goes. I actually just recently started writing down some more stuff I want to get to. I think I'm going to have some more shows than movies. And sometimes because a lot of stuff is not that I want to show you is not streaming right now. So that has kind of been the problem.
Oh my God. So I was looking through that last night and I was looking through the whatever that app you sent me was. And I was looking through to see like, okay, is Weird Science streaming yet? No. Is this movie streaming yet? No.
Mm-hmm.
Is this one streaming yet? No. And I was just like, I mean, I know we still have to send our collections to each other to update them and see. But I was sitting there, as I'm sitting there watching, going through, like, checking on titles, and to see that it's only available for like renting or buying, I'm just like, God, like this is I kind of wish maybe this was back in just like regular DVD days where like you could go to
Yeah.
Blockbuster or order the disc from Netflix and get it sent to you or something, man.
Yeah.
But I went through
Redbox or
like four or five. Yeah, I went through like 4 or 5 different things, and none of them were shown. But that's as of today, May 18th. You know, some of that stuff changes monthly, so by the time we start back up again, who knows? Uh, was last year I wanted Weird Science, and it was streaming up until we started recording, and then it stopped streaming again.
yeah. That's the problem, right? Like I have a list of stuff that I want to get to, but it's like, oh, these are not streaming. And actually, I was just thinking of something that I wanted to watch for myself yesterday. All-Star Superman, because I read the comic and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. It's an animated movie. Used to be on HBO Max or HBO Max, whichever era you're talking about. And it's now they removed a lot of their stuff. I mean, it's like, okay, it's not streaming anywhere. So I'd have to rent it or buy it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So originally Max was built to be like the hub of all of Warner Brothers stuff, and now they're just back to licensing stuff out again. So it's frustrating. Okay. Well, all of our social media handles are in the, show notes. You can catch us there, or just, subscribe to us on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to us. And when season 3 drops, it'll be there in your feed. Thank you all for watching and listening along with us, and we will catch you next time.